Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christie, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Productive Joy. We are in for another wonderful episode today, and I am so excited to introduce you to my new friend. But before I do, if you're not already following this podcast, please do. That's what makes people actually able to listen, and this stuff is just too good not to share with the world. So do me a favor, hit subscribe, like, whatever platform you're on. Make sure that you are following Productive Joy, because today is no exception to the rule. We are in for a treat. So I have with me today Kerim Kfuri, and Kerim is a lot of things. So he is a supply chain expert. He's also the CEO of the Atlas Network. However, he is a family man with 2 children. He's a beach lover and a global traveler. He's also a racket sport enthusiast. And I specifically asked about pickleball, and he has indeed played, but he's also played some things that I've never even heard of with a racket. And then he's also an educator at heart, whether that's personally or professionally. So Kerim, welcome to Productive Joy.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And thank you for that wonderful introduction.
It's kind of fun, right? It's kind of fun to let people know what you choose to let them know about you.
That's true. That is true.
We do paint ourselves into a box every once in a while, and I don't believe in boxes. I think we should get to be who we're supposed to be authentically. So, Kerim, here's what I know to be true is I've studied the human brain for a very long time, and I know people have a rather short attention span. They need something to grab their attention. So if you had 30 seconds to get people excited about what they're going to learn today, what would you say to these fabulous folks?
Yeah, absolutely. My world revolves around the global supply chain industry. I've been in here for about 20 years working to help businesses avoid expensive mistakes. And outside of that, with most recent events, pandemic and otherwise, I think consumers in general have really gotten a taste and an understanding of how important the words supply chain are to their daily lives and their experiences and what they encounter, whether they're buying something or looking to, have something that they absolutely need and can't have for whatever reasons. And so it's my focus and my goal to really present knowledge and information and expertise through my experiences around this very important industry that touches all of us in different ways.
So to dumb it all the way down, you're going to be able to tell us why we couldn't get toilet paper during the pandemic, even though that was not necessarily something that made sense?
Yes.
Okay, well, we don't have to talk toilet paper yet. We can definitely talk toilet paper, but let's back all the way up. So you have been doing this industry of supply chain stuff for a long time, but you didn't come out of the womb doing this. So tell us kind of how you got to this space in your career.
Oh, that's a long story.
Oh, I'm excited. Tell us all the things.
Long one. Well, let's just start with the simple truth that most entrepreneurs do not have a straight path, right? We all sort of have the twists and the turns, or if you want to call it even the shotgun approach, where you sort of do a lot of different things and hope that something really sticks.
Mm-hmm.
What I can tell you is that my business background, my entrepreneurship experience began very, very young, 5, 6 years old, selling blueberries on the side of the road next to my house, and then a t-shirt thing in the mall when I was a teenager, and just kind of continued through that. But really, I had twists and turns. I was a music lover from a very young age, played 5, 6 different instruments. Thought I was going to kind of go in the realm of the music industry, was going down that direction, and ended up shifting gears, became a business person in general, but not in music. And through, some different twists and turns and experiences of different places, I ended up in supply chain. I'll give you a couple of quick ones. I worked in the consulting industry for a while. I worked in the Securities and Exchange Commission in the Office of International Affairs. I worked at NASD FINRA, which basically regulates the stock markets, for many years. But I was always an entrepreneur, and somewhere in my brain, between me being, a well-traveled person who speaks 5 or 6 languages, and this kind of mixture of entrepreneurship and consulting and these regulatory experiences, I came to a trip where I went to Asia. And I had family that was there, and I saw when I was there that ideas become reality, especially in the manufacturing space, but that it was very fragmented and that some of the most amazing brands in the world came out of the same factories that some of the worst quality products in the world came out. But it was the same factory. What was the difference between that? Why is one $1,000 product and one's a $10 product when the materials may be the same and the factory may be the same, but what's the difference therein? And who protects the interests of these small to mid-sized businesses, these entrepreneurs, when they get that really defective product, or when they can't get things on time, or when it's not exactly how they need it to be? And through this knowledge and background of these different experiences and education and so forth, came the idea of, let's try to make a company that can protect people's interests through education, through better processes and a better protocol, visibility, transparency, things that didn't really exist, and not sell on just cost alone. Let's sell on the important things, which are, again, visibility and transparency and being able to fully understand the process through knowledge and education. And in doing so, we'll get a better outcome. And that's what I've been doing for 20 plus years, talking about it, writing about it, helping thousands of companies, millions of products to basically be produced safely. And that's how it came to be. But again, many different experiences along the way, many different educational things and twists and turns. Again, never a straight line, but all leads up to where it's supposed to in the end.
It definitely does. And I love that essentially you like to help people and that you are using your experiences to do just that. You know, you took a winding path, and then as you took that winding path, you're now helping others straighten their path a little bit, or at least get to the destination that they were intending to get to, which I think is phenomenal. I would love for you to think about a story, a time, a product maybe that you were able to take from, I have no idea what I'm doing, educate the people, and then get them to the point where they were successful. Do you have, and you don't have to call it by name, just you can call it XYZ.
That's like every day.
Okay, well then tell us what happened today.
Yeah, all right. That's a good point. So let's see. Okay, fine. I remember that we had a product several years ago where a client came in and said, listen, the straw industry has major challenges. Why? Okay, because you go into a bar and essentially you have straws that are out in the open, and then somebody grabs it with their fingertip, they put it in your glass, and then you use that straw, right? And the idea was, could you just get that straw where they rip off the small piece of paper at the end? Well, yes, you can, but that's an opportunity to do something with that. So this gentleman at the time came along and said, I want to basically make these flags that are on these straws, and the flags can have advertising on them, and they basically would be a hygienic, basically tip that goes at the end of the straw. So when it comes to you, you see Applebee's or Coca-Cola or whatever else you see, and you can pull this tab off, and you could then have a clean drinking experience, and it's an advertising thing at the same time. And he didn't know where to go with any of this. He just had a great idea. He had come from the bar and restaurant industry and said that he wanted to do something unique and different. So, at that time, our focus was, one, how do we make it? How do we make it the best way possible? What kind of machinery do we need to create to actually make these flags and put these flags on these straws? How are we going to convey this very simple idea that for many people may be even a little bit alien? So do we need to make videos around it and educational components and websites and so on and so forth? So the point was, it came to us as an idea on a napkin, let's just call it that. We had to make it into a business. And the business was not just, hey, we've got this thing, we've got it all baked and figured out, and you just have to make it. It was from the very beginning. It was this component, and this machine, and these things have to come together and then packaged this way and sold in this way, and so on and so forth. So, and that is the case with many, many, many of the entrepreneurs that come to us. That's why here at my company, the Atlas Network, we have a commodities group, a textiles group, and we have an innovations group. And the innovations side of it is where these ideas become a reality, whether it's these products you see on Shark Tank or on, as seen on TV, inventions, or whatever it may be. And why I love those kinds of scenarios, because there's no roadmap. As a matter of fact, the only thing that's definitive is that there is no definitive plan. And so you really need to sort of sort through it all and figure out, what's the best way to produce it? Will the market want it? Polling, resources, and there's a lot that comes into those kinds of projects, more so than just manufacturing a widget that's been made 100 times before. You need to make it a little bit better, or tweak it a little bit, or reduce the cost, or improve the efficiency. But there's nothing to go on. It's just that much more exciting. So,
Oh, Kerim, this is fascinating because, I think we all use a whole lot of products every day. We have no idea how they became products, but now we couldn't live without them. And you most definitely have done that. Here's where I want to go with this question, though. This might throw you for a loop. So if I do, I apologize and come with me. How do you hire the right people for that? Because I would think that these are people that have to be able to be innovative and think on their feet, but then they also have to have a whole lot in their minds already of what works and what doesn't, and sales strategy and marketing. Like, how do you find great employees?
okay, you don't. You make
Oh, okay,
employees.
good answer. Say more.
You make great employees. What I mean by that is that there's an aspect to this business which is very non-linear and really revolves around you having some aha moments.
Mm.
So we've got, a couple sales guys over here, some new people that just jumped onto our program, that as we talk more and as we paint these experiences, these light bulbs start going off in their heads that they themselves never really even thought of in those ways or realized those ways. So they may be really good at sales or account management and so on, but connecting the dots that other people don't see is a talent and a skill that is not really on a resume.
No.
So much. Yes, you can always ask those creative thinking questions or problem solving scenarios. How does the mouse get out to get the cheese? Whatever you want to call it. But the point is that in the end of the day, you have to believe that the impossible is possible.
Yeah.
You have to believe that there is always some kind of a solution. You just may not have done it before or gotten to it yet. And that the only limitation really is on yourself.
Yeah.
And this is something that not everybody is born with, not everybody is trained with, or you write it down on a resume like, I believe in no limitations. It does not.
Limitless possibilities.
Right, exactly. I would love it if I saw a resume like that, by the way. If I saw a resume that just literally said, this is it, limitless possibilities.
I'm a clean slate. Mold me into what you want me to be.
Right. And so I think in the end of the day, the best employees are the ones that you sort of have the raw skills that are important and key points and places where you can have discussions and there's a certain level of education and knowledge there. But outside of that they are willing to learn and they're willing to grow and willing to see beyond anything that they may have ever done before. This business is about that for sure. No 2 days are the same. You have to put on your fireman's coat put out a lot of fires. It's a global supply chain solutions company. The opposite of solutions means a lot of problems. So you're problem solving all the time. Yeah, so it's a little bit about how I think you get the best employees.
Oh, I love it. And I'm a mother. My kids are 23 and they are very much in the Gen Z space. And the Gen Z learners, people definitely approach things differently than the Gen Xers like me, right? So, and it's not that it's not taught, it's just the environment through which we were raised, the things that existed, right? All of that good stuff. Do you find that your best projects have people from multiple generations on them? Or do you find that there are certain projects that require a certain type of thinker?
I think it's the same type of thinker, and I think that the generations don't matter as much.
Nice.
Let me explain. So you could be from Gen Z, you could be from whatever sort of generation. You're either a curious person or you're not.
That's
right?
true.
And how you consume the information may be different. I am curious, but I solve problems by pushing two buttons. I'm curious, but I solve problems by rolling up both of my sleeves and taking a sledgehammer to something, whatever it may be. Either way, it's a curious person who's just dealing with different levels of like exposure based upon their time in their life and their background, but the fundamental has to be the same. The fundamental baseline has to be the same, which is a curiosity, a thirst for knowledge, a thirst for assisting and problem solving and being creative and everything else. Because, that is the common thread more than anything else. Will one group pick it up faster than another group because they have certain tech at their hands or certain backgrounds or experiences and so on? Maybe. But that's just a matter of adoption.
Yeah.
But it's not really a matter of the fundamentals being different between them.
Well, and I'm sorry again that we went kind of tangential, but I did that on purpose because I think the people that are listening are leaders who want to do it differently, who want to approach things in the best possible way to get the results they're trying to get. And you're literally the expert on that, figuring out how you take this thing, this widget, this straw with a flag on it, and turn it into something people want, that people will choose to find. Like, there are just so many cool things that are happening in that space. And I want the leaders listening to think about that and think about what you do to figure out what makes great employees in that space. So let's back up, because you've written a book, and the book that you've written will very likely give some answers to the questions that I'm asking. So tell us about supply chain ups and downs.
Sure, absolutely. So Supply Chain Ups and Downs was a book that I have recently written based upon basically the ups and downs of this industry. It's a very simple read, 150 pages. I wanted something that people could pick up, students would pick up, because more undergraduate and graduate students are studying productions, operations, management, supply chain now more than ever. Majors in this are happening all the time. Consumers want to understand why there aren't products on the shelves or why costs are skyrocketing. Business professionals that have maybe a boss or someone within their industry that has said, hey, you need to know about supply chain. And they're like, I don't know. How do I know about supply chain? What is it? How do I get to it? What do I need to know? And even for supply chain professionals, because in that industry is very siloed. So people that only know procurement or sourcing may not know about shipping and logistics, may not know about customs and duties or warehousing and fulfillment, because it's been broken up into their own like different categories. So the point being is I've had a holistic knowledge, a knowledge from the idea on the napkin all the way until the delivery to the warehouses and then the reordering process. So that would be supplier selection, prototyping, manufacturing, quality control, logistics, import, customs duty, delivery, warehousing, fulfillment, reordering, the whole life cycle. So in this way, the book is meant to give people that perspective of the supply chain, starting with very simple things such as, measuring, cutting once, measuring twice, simple things like that, dotting your I's, crossing your T's. The details matter. What are the ways to pick the best suppliers? What are the ways to make sure you have visibility around productions and manufacturing? Why it all matters. And then in the end of the book, I then you get into more sort of widespread topics where I talk about things like nearshoring and the importance of that, what it means. I talk about sustainability, because the supply chain industry and logistics industry represents the 8th leading cause of greenhouse gases in the world. So it's very important to understand where we're going with that and what's happening in that arena. And then finally, I talk about artificial intelligence and about the pros of it and the cons of it, and what is really kind of, where does humanity play a role in all of this ever-evolving technology. So the book in 150 pages is a very nice, wide read that gives people a very good understanding and backbone about this important industry and these terms that are part of our vernacular that they may not, really understand. So that's why I wrote it, and that's what it's about.
I love it. And so I'm going to take you back to my chemistry days because I was a biology major, and in what you were saying, my immediate thought was limiting reagents, right? So I didn't learn a whole lot in chemistry, if I'm honest, but one of the things that Miss Smith taught me was about limiting reagents, and that you cannot make any more product if you run out of this piece of the puzzle. And I think that's one thing people might think of with supply and demand that seems simple, right? But there's so much more that goes into it. So let's circle back to our toilet paper question. And I can spin it one of two ways. So I live in Florida. And as you know, this year has been rough in terms of hurricanes.
Yeah.
And the things that the stores ran out of didn't make logical sense to the consumer, me, because why would yogurt not be something that we could get, but we could get milk? Like it was those sorts of things. So why don't you just quickly walk us through why certain products become a problem in things like a pandemic or after a hurricane?
Sure. So it really comes down to distribution centers, and it comes down to supply chain routes. So in the case of particular products versus other products, those products may have been in particular distribution centers that may not have been accessible via truck or plane or train mechanisms to get it from the certain place to the next place where it then could be distributed. And that could be, again, as a result of a natural disaster that's occurring in an area, a labor strike that's happening in particular ports, a pandemic that basically has people not able to report to work, so they can't have drivers, driving the trucks, which then create a backlog that goes all the way back to the manufacturing process. You've got containers out in the middle of the ocean just sitting there for months because no one's getting the goods off of the containers onto the trucks that are then delivering to these places. So it is a pipeline that can have kinks in it and bottlenecks in it due to various instances that will happen, that will occur. Natural disasters, force majeure, political issues, wars, shortages of materials and supply, currency fluctuations, so many different things that have nothing to do with an actual widget being made, but all of the tangential things that happen after the widget's made to get it from the place where the widget was made to the place where the widget needs to be disseminated to consumers. So these are all areas that, consumers don't see or understand because they just are walking through and say, why don't I have my X or why don't I have my Y?
Like, why did you stop making pomegranate flavored?
Right, exactly. And the reality of it is that it comes down to those elements. Now, what also happens too is that when these scenarios or issues occur, some businesses go out of business. They can't sustain those kinds of bottlenecks. And so they go out of business, and then they don't have those employees anymore, and they don't have that distribution mechanism anymore. And then a product gets discontinued, or a small to mid-sized business goes out of business because they just don't have cash flow or don't operate in a mechanism that can sustain 3, 4, 5, 7 months without having products or materials or sales. And that happened a lot during the pandemic too, where a business couldn't survive a 1-year hiatus or a 6-month hiatus where they couldn't do it. And then that's why certain products aren't on the shelves. Or that one company goes out of business, and then the other competitors take over that, or the prices go up or down due to scarcity. There's a lot of economic, mechanisms at play here.
Well, and I think about, I'm going to think about students for a minute and taking economics as an example. That's a requirement in our state for graduation. But this isn't what they're talking about. They're talking about the basics and aren't making connections. But I think that people would be fascinated if they had the ability to make the connection. So thank you for writing your book. Thank you for putting it into terms that we can understand and that people could get a little more excited so that they want to join your team and be part of your innovation system, which I think is awesome. So here's a very important question before I ask you my favorite question. And that's, how would somebody find you? Because I have a feeling, like I'm thinking about some humans I know that might be a really good fit for your business. How might somebody find you?
Sure. So for my company, which is the Atlas Network, it's just theatlasnetwork.com. And that's where we do our global supply chain solutions and help small, medium, large size businesses basically find a better way or find a way if there is no way that exists for innovations and so on. For my kind of philosophy and leadership type of work and, things that are about me, speaking, my book, all this kind of thing, it's basically at my first and my last name. So KerimKfuri.com. The book is at supplychainupsanddowns.com. That's where, or on Amazon, either one of those places. And then I've got all the social media stuff, like all the YouTube, X and Facebook and Instagram, where putting out a lot of content and a lot of footage basically every day these days around many, many different topics around the supply chain industry and also about just philosophy and life in general, because we can't have business without our lives, tied into it. So I touch upon these things too a bit.
Kareem, that's fascinating. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So my favorite question that I usually get to long before now, but you were just too interesting and I couldn't get there. And I'll be very curious where you go with this. Sir, what is your definition or how would you describe productive joy?
Productive joy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I would say productive joy is through being a global citizen. What do I mean by that? I mean that we need to continue to understand that we operate as a planet, not as like a state or a country, and that insular ways of thinking are disruptive towards the connective capabilities that we have as humans to learn from each other, to grow from each other, to be collaborative in life and in business and in cultural exchange and so on. I've been fortunate enough to really see that at work and experience that and the true beauty of what that can be. But I don't think that many of us have that experience. So I would challenge or say to any business leaders that are out there to really work on their abilities to have a global mindset and global citizenship and understand that the closer that we are to the rest of the world, the closer we are to having true joy and true success.
Couldn't agree more. And I don't know why I keep picturing a really intricate dominoes game, right? Where you've got all the dominoes set up and you set one off and it just knocks everything else down. And sometimes it stops, right? Because it wasn't lined up exactly right. But the reality is every decision that we're making is going to impact somebody else, right? The butterfly effect, dominoes, all those things. You're painting a picture of that for us. And I really appreciate the thoughtfulness behind that and the fact that you have also decided, you know what, the world needs this book and we're going to make really cool things happen so that the book can have the impact it's supposed to have. So well done. Well done. And great answer. I don't think I've gotten that answer yet. It's my favorite question for two reasons. One, the podcast is called Productive Joy, obviously, but it's also, I've never gotten the same answer twice. There might have been a few themes that have emerged, but overall, everybody has a different definition. And I kind of love that. So I could talk to you for days, Kareem, legitimately, but I know that you're a busy man and you have other things to do today. So let's wrap up with some rapid fire questions. Are you excited and ready for this?
Always ready to go. Sure.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So we're going to start with another definition, but this definition is personal. Could you please define for me fun?
Fun. My kids.
How old are your kids?
15 and 11.
Oh my gosh, that is fun. And yeah, the fun is just beginning, my friend. That's awesome. Okay. How do you know that you're showing up as your authentic self?
When I see people resonating with what I'm saying or doing.
Love it. Okay. When people resonate with you, I appreciate the connection since you just finished saying that we need to be global citizens. That makes good sense to me. How do you channel your best self on your worst days?
Oh, you got to take a deep breath. You got to take a deep breath and you got to say, I'm very thankful that I'm able to just do that, to just take a breath and be able to come back and get a new perspective and be able to then approach in a way that is better if you can.
Yeah. For sure. So, this is going to be a fun one and a hard one because you took us on a journey today. And that journey might have been something that somebody's listening and goes, oh my gosh, that's my world every single day. And for others, this is the first time that they've heard anything about supply and demand and how this all fits together. And being a global citizen, they really hadn't thought about that. So, what I'd love for you to do is to think about if people can only remember one thing that you said today and they walk away with one major nugget of wisdom. What's the most important nugget of wisdom that you've given them today?
That you really have to have a global view. You have to have a global view of life and of basically the connections that you have in this world, whether it's business or personal or otherwise. You have to have a global view.
Mm. Yes, we do, right? And I'm not sure we're all good at that yet, but that doesn't mean that we can't be. It just means we haven't been exposed. And Kareem, you exposed us today to a world that some of us take for granted and don't really think about. Like, I know when I go to the store, I'm going to be able to get X, Y, and Z because it's just there. And when it's not, I'm annoyed. And that's that's on a little bit more on me than anybody because there's a reason behind it. So thank you for helping me understand why my Amazon packages get here when they do and why some of them take longer than others. And like my mind is sparkling with all different ideas of reasons why your book is so important. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
It was a genuine pleasure. And for all of our listeners, thank you for spending the last 30 minutes learning from my new friend Kareem and for just getting better, right? We're here together today and every day to figure out how to change what we're doing to find a little bit more productive joy. So today and every day, I want to encourage you to take one little nugget of wisdom from this fabulous conversation and do something with it, and also figure out a way to turn fun into action.